Part 2 starts now.
Not Your Mother's Radio is listener funded. If you wish to assist and help keep the station active, funds can be sent via PayPal to Elliot. Is not your mother at gmail.com. Remember, there is only one L and one T in Elliot. Thank you for your assistance. It is appreciated.
Other guys that said Mickey was probably one of the best songwriters to ever come out of Nashville at that time, and for Prine to make that comment, Christopherson used to say, "God, I learned more about songwriting from Mickey than I did any other human being."
Wow.
He said that he probably never would have written Bobby McGee or Sunday Morning Coming Down if he hadn't Mickey. See what happened was when he finally wrote Me and Bobby McGee, Mickey went to Roger Miller and said, "This guy's got a great song."
Yeah, and
Roger Miller went back to Nashville with the song and cut it.
Oh.
before Janis.
Yeah, before Janis did it. You know what I like to do? I like to take a couple of minutes and play his version of "Just Dropped In."
Yeah.
Well, can you talk this song? Can you tell us a little about this?
Well, that was a song that Kenny Rogers in the first edition made a '1 record, and during that year, I think it was '66. He had a '1 record on 4 different charts. No, 3 different charts. Solomon Burke's had a Time Is a Thief,
right?
And then Andy Williams had Sweet Memories. Wrote that. Let's see, what else did he do? He had American Trilogy.
American Trilogy.
No, but he had 3 '1 records on 3 different charts in 1 year. And then Funny, Forgotten, Familiar Faces, I think that's the name of the song. Anyway, Tom Jones had a big top 5 hit record with it. But Mickey was one of those guys, and you didn't know who he was. So if you want to play something,
go
ahead. Okay,
I'm going to play "Just Dropped In." Now, if you, I don't know how true this is, but I do a lot of reading. According to what I read, Newberry had a lot of depression problems, and this "Just Dropped In" is the alter ego of the tune that Kenny Rogers in the first edition put out. Same song, same he wrote it. It was his song, but listen to this and tell me which one you like better. This one has so much heart and soul to it. It just kind of rips your guts out. But here we go.
This morning, sundown was shining in. I found my broken mind in a brown paper bag and sin. I tripped on a cloud, I fell 8 miles high, tore my mind up on a jagged sky. I just dropped in. See what condition my condition was in. Wished my soul in a deep dark hole, then I followed it. I met myself crawling out as I was crawling in. Then I woke up so tired, I said I never will unwind. I saw so much, I think I broke my mind. Lord, I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in. Oh, Lord, 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 what condition my condition was in. I say, Lord, 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 what condition my condition was in. Somebody painted April Fool in big black letters on a dead end sign. I had my foot in the gas when I left the road and blew out my mind. 8 miles out of Memphis and I got no spare. 8 miles straight up downtown somewhere. And I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in. I say, Lord, 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 what condition my condition was in.
Okay, and that's Mickey Newberry doing his tune, Just Dropped In. And that's the tune that Kenny Rogers covered with the first edition. There's also another great version of that song out by Sharon Jones. Did you ever hear that one, Jeff?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. She did a pretty good version of it, too. She did a little more funkiest version of it, but this one just kind of grabs you by the throat, and you just kind of have to listen to it. So Mickey wrote for like some of the biggest people out there.
Oh, God. B.B. King, Bonnie Raitt, Joan Baez, Willie Nelson.
Also, let me throw this one in. Vampire Weekend did it too in one of his songs too, and that, they're a new band.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are finally discovering. I mean, the great ones.
Yeah.
Eventually get discovered.
Yep.
His songs will last forever. I mean, it's just he was that good a writer. He's funny. He used to tell me, I'd wake up in the morning, Jeff, and if I didn't feel good, I'd write a sad song, and if I felt good, I'd play golf.
Yeah, that's what somebody said after listening to his albums. He said to them, I bet you think I sit at home with a bottle of scotch and a gun to my head. He said, nah, I write it down and I sing about it.
Well, with Mickey, you had to stay away from the Golden Gate Bridge and Razor Blades because some of the stuff that he would write was beyond. He had this one song, "She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye."
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Just the lyrics. He had a way with lyrics that just, a lot of people think about words and stuff, but putting it together, putting it, it's a song. It was amazing. It's just. And I was lucky to become good friends with him after I broke his record. And when I did fundraisers, when people would retire, I'd say, Mickey, would you come down? And he'd drive all the way from Oregon, and he'd play for him.
Yeah.
And he was like one of these guys that never went on tour, so he was like this god.
Yeah.
It's like he'd show up. He'd play at a place called the Boarding House in San Francisco, and maybe 80 people would show up.
Right.
And I'd go every night. I'd sit there. He just mesmerized me. He was such a great lyricist, and he had this voice like he sang a version of Danny Boy. I'm telling you, which is, I got to tell you a quick story. A friend of mine who's a disc jockey up in Santa Rosa, and Mickey, he loved Mickey, and we got Mickey to come up and perform. There was 50 people in the place, and he grabbed Mickey just before he went on the stage, and he says, he was a great big guy in deep voice, and he says, "Hey Newberry, will you sing Danny Boy for me, please?" It's a big tough drug dealer, you know. And Mickey sang it, and I looked over at my friend Jack, and he was crying. Yeah. I'd never seen that before. Mickey had this way of just, he was incredible. He really connected with people.
Should I play Danny Boy for the crowd?
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, here we go.
The valley is hushed, the flowers are dying, the meadow is wide, with the winter snow. Lord, as I stand at the place where Daddy's lying, I say a silent prayer. Somehow I know He hears me there, though soft I tread above Him. So now He sleeps in peace, His heavy voice come home. The pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the leaves are falling. It's you must go and I must bide. Oh, come ye back when the sun shines on the meadow, or when the valley is high. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so.
Okay, guys, and that one is Mickey Newberry's version of Danny Boy. Tell me that's not beautiful. Tell me the guy wasn't incredible. And we were talking behind the scenes, and Mickey passed away 18 years this month, the end of this month.
2002.
2002, yeah.
Yeah, and I just had moved up from San Francisco to a place called Green Valley, and Mickey was very sick. And I called him up, and he said, Jeff, I haven't gotten out of bed in 2 years.
Wow.
Basically, because he's on the oxygen.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to him. I'm walking through this field next to my house, and Mickey goes, I want to sing you something, Jeff. And he goes, so he sings me this song, and he says to me, so what do you think? I think Willie's going to do on his next album. He's asking me. I'm looking at the phone going, it's Mickey Newberry, one of the greatest songwriters of all time. You know, it's like, and I was going, wow. You know, I was really, that was really something. I couldn't believe that, that here's this guy saying, so what do you think, Jeff?
Yeah. Wow.
I mean,
and he could have been kind of like the leader of that whole outlaw cowboy movement. They wanted him. They wanted him in that group.
Yeah, but Mickey just didn't want it. Mickey wanted to march to his own drummer.
Yeah.
And that's, if you listen to his songs, you'll see what I mean.
Yeah.
There's a lot of lyrics in there that you go, wow, where'd he come up with that?
Yeah. And it's stuff that you think about, like you said, but you wouldn't put it down in words.
Well, you couldn't.
Yeah, I know. There's no way that you. Yeah. And the whole thing is, you know what, guys whoever's listening out there, there's a couple of great intro albums to Newberry. There's a couple of best ofs, which has some pretty cool stuff on it. But the album you were telling us about, his first album that you worked on, Jeff.
Well, yeah, that was the one with the
American Trilogy.
American Trilogy. That was called Heaven Help the Child, I think it was.
Yeah.
He did 3 or 4 albums for Elektra.
Right. And there's another great album called Winter Winds.
That was later on.
Yes.
When his voice changed.
Yeah.
And he brought in a violinist to work with, Marion Rose.
Oh, okay.
I forget her name. Anyway, he would come and play San Francisco when he'd bring her to, and it was beautiful. And it was, when I met Mickey, his hair was black, and by the time he got into that album, he was a hard liver.
Yeah.
He lived really hard, and his hair was white. But the thing about Newberry, he was loved all over the world, and he had a thing called backyard porch. And people would come from all over the world, from Australia, from this country, that country, from England, and Mickey would go there and he would put on a show for everybody, and he'd say thank you to all his fans that would show up. It was sort of Grateful Dead-ish,
Yeah. Now, I'm sorry, you continue.
No, but very quickly, when Mickey was in his last year, Mickey showed up the last year, and they never thought he was going to make it, but he showed up with oxygen, and you can see on YouTube, you can see footage of the last time that Mickey Newberry sang. But he wanted to give his fans the everything that he had.
Wow. And you helped break out his first album, Looks Like Rain.
I broke the first single.
Oh yeah, Looks Like Rain, right? That was the album.
Well, the Looks Like Rain was the album that came out on Mercury.
Yeah.
And what I did with that was when he had the hit with American Trilogy. He did a live show in San Diego State, Montezuma Hall. And he did his songs, and he also did Please Send Me Someone to Love that Percy Mayfield wrote.
Yeah.
My God. But so what I did was I came up with I put together the Mercury record, Looks Like Rain, and I put it together with the live album. And we sold that.
Okay.
And it was beautiful. I mean, if I could give something back to Mickey Newberry for everything that he gave me, all the pleasure and everything, it was just I was very happy to be able to do that for his fans, because a lot of people couldn't find the Looks Like Rain record. Because Mickey bought it back from Mercury.
Yeah. Also, he had an album out before that never really did anything. That he used
it was on RCA.
Yeah, Harlequin Melodies.
Harlequin Melodies, and he did Sweet Memory on there, and I think he did Funny Forgotten Thing. But it was poorly produced.
Yeah, and he did one of my favorites that he did later on again. How Many Times Must the Piper Be Paid?
Yeah, but he came back and did that on the Elektra album.
Yes. And well, I just want to let everybody know out there, we're more than halfway through the show. It looks like we're going to be here late tonight, so get comfortable. So get comfortable out there, guys. We still have a lot to go over. Next, I think who do you want to talk about next? First of all, you promised me a great Anne Margaret story.
Well, yeah, when I first started in the business, my job was to take people to Vegas to see Tom Jones and Humperdinck. Yeah. That was my job. And I did a lot of promotion parties, and Jones would come out for 10 minutes and Humperdinck would come out for 10 minutes. And and then I stayed overnight and come back. I'd take radio people. That was my job.
Yeah.
That was cool. But a lot of my job was to take new releases and have new release parties. So I'd invite all the radio people. So Lee Greenwood, remember Lee?
Yeah.
Well, Anne Margaret and Lee Greenwood did an album together, and it was on LHI record. Lee Hazelwood.
Lee Hazelwood, yeah.
Lee Hazelwood.
He did a lot of writing for Nancy Sinatra too.
Yes, yeah. I think he did the Boots Are Made for Walking or something.
Yeah, he did Strawberry Wine and all that stuff.
Yeah, and so they put out this record. Now, she was married to Roger Smith. I think she still is.
Yes.
And he's a turkey. He was a guy on 77 Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
So they came into town, and I did this fundraiser, and I invited a lot of my friends along with radio people. That's the way I love to do. I love just inviting friends of mine, because they were the ones who loosened up the parties. And so he grabs me as we walk in, and he goes, "Now you got to call her Miss Anne Margaret. That's how she's supposed to be introduced, not Anne." Now, I say, "Okay, Ross, whatever you want."
Right.
So here's Anne Margaret, and she's full figured, to say the least. And she's got these freckles all over her face and on her boobs.
Uh-huh.
And my friend, I got a friend named Sal, and they had a what do you call it? A line that you'd walk by and say, "Hi, I'm so and so, blah blah blah," receiving line.
Right.
So my friend goes, "She got a lot of freckles," and he's staring right down at her tits. and Roger goes, "I want to talk to you. Who's this guy?" I says, "Oh, he's a big disc jockey at KSFO, which was a station in town." And that was that story.
Oh,
Actually, Roger got too drunk that night. I had to save him.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah, he was in the main room where she was going to go up on stage, and they were going to do some talking. And I caught some little busboy unbuckling his belt buckle. and Roger didn't know where he was. He was so drunk. And I stopped the kid and I said, hey, what do you think you're doing? And Roger looked up and he says, oh, geez, thanks. I mean, because this guy was a real jerk to me.
Wow.
But now I'm his best friend. But she was beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a few pounds heavier.
Uh-huh.
You know, she just filled out from when she was doing Bye Bye Birdie.
Yeah. She was beautiful in those Elvis movies.
Oh my God, she was beautiful. She was Swedish, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And she always she had more talent than Elvis in those movies.
Yeah, she could dance.
Yeah, dance, sing, she just the whole package.
Yeah, I saw some of her when she, what do you call it, when you test for a show.
The screen whatever.
But having these promotion parties were really important. I think I went to one every night of the week because every label, you know, there was a zillion new groups in the late '60s.
Right.
So, you know, that's what it was. San Francisco. You knew where you were going to get a meal because everybody was trying to outdo the next person. You know.
Yeah.
But I put one on for Tom Waits.
Really?
Down at the Cliff House in San Francisco, and Ricky Lee Jones was the opening act.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I had some great times, you know.
I actually spoke to Chucky Weiss, who was Waits' buddy.
Yeah?
Do you know Chucky Weiss?
I don't think so.
Do you remember that song, Chucky's in Love?
Of course.
Yeah, well, that's written for him. He was Tom Waits' boy, and Ricky Lee was, she was part of that group, and I've been trying to get him on. He's very, very sick. He's emphysema or something. But he owned part of the Viper Club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he goes back a bit, and he was hooked up with Johnny Depp for a long time.
Oh yeah, that's for him. Was it River Phoenix?
Yeah, River Phoenix. Yeah, but Chucky owned part of that club too.
Yeah.
So, let's see. You also did something with Donny Hathaway.
Well, not really. Well,
Okay.
Donny Hathaway was to me one of the greatest singer-songwriters. No,
Yeah.
I'll take that a step further. He was a true music genius.
Yes.
You know, there's just a few of them. Well, there's a handful, but I always thought, there was Sly, and then there was Prince,
Yeah.
and then there was Ray Charles, and there was Stevie Wonder, and it was people like that, and I always thought Donny Hathaway was everything. He was the whole package. And he did everything, and sadly he died. But he came out to San Francisco maybe 3 or 4 months before he died. And I waited 2 or 3 years to see him. He came out, and he was just out of it. He did 20 minutes and walked off stage.
Wow.
Yeah, that was very sad. I was pointing out that there's certain points musically in your life that made a difference. The first time I heard Girl from Ipanema was one of them. And when I heard Green Onions was another.
Yeah.
And then the first time I saw Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah.
For the first time they came out to San Francisco City College and they played. And that changed. Well, that didn't just change it for me, but changed it for the whole world,
Sly was what an incredible entertainer. He wasn't. That was one killer band.
Yeah, but he changed everything. Nobody was doing what Sly did before, and of course, having the foresight to have an all integrated band didn't make any difference.
Right.
He just wanted. He just came across it and he says, this thing's going to work.
Yeah.
He didn't go about it saying, I'm going to get an Italian drummer or a Mexican sax player.
Right. And let women in the band.
He had his sister, and then he invited,
Rose.
he had his brother, Freddie.
Yep, Freddie.
And then he had Cynthia. Cynthia from Sacramento, who play trumpet, and man, they were. When I saw that band, I blew my mind. I says, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
You know, it's like when I got Santana.
Right.
Same thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it was.
And Sly was able to cross over better than Santana.
Oh yeah. No. Sly must have had 10 top 10 singles.
Yeah.
And they were groundbreaking songs.
Oh yeah. All his albums were.
They were for the time. For that time, it really fit in. It was.
Did you ever do anything with the Chambers Brothers?
No, just Lester.
Just Lester?
Yeah, I used to book Lester later on.
I saw the Chambers Brothers in the day back in New York, and they were great too. I mean, they were never able to do it on album though for some reason. They just couldn't. They had their big hit "Time Has Come."
Yeah.
And their albums weren't that great after that, but they were great live. They were a great live act.
Yeah, all it takes is one.
Yeah. But they wound up working small clubs pretty quick. They didn't have that staying power. And I used to love the Chambers Brothers. But Millie Jackson, another one of your successes.
Well, Millie was like Ike and Tina Turner. She had never gotten. Ike and Tina had semi-hits.
Right.
On top 40 radio.
Yeah, just bubbling under.
Yeah, they got into the 20s, but they weren't hits.
Right.
Like Proud Mary was a smash.
Yep.
Okay, that changed everything for them. The song that I broke, I've Been Loving You Too Long, it opened the door for them. That's the whole thing. See, because top 40 radio, a lot of them played the record. Yeah. See, and then of course they got the Rolling Stones tour because of that. And then they got $1 million deal out of United Artists. But where were we?
Millie Jackson.
Oh, Millie Jackson was one of those artists that only sold to the black community. And she had a song, she had an album called Feelin' Bitchy.
Yeah.
And she was really good, but she would never get played on pop radio. So I listened to it, and I loved the title. So what I did was I hired a small plane to fly over the Oakland Coliseum on a Monday night football.
Yeah.
With Howard Cosell and Don Meredith. And the guy that opened the door was Frank Gifford, because I had the little banner, that goes, okay. And Frank Gifford goes, "Who's Millie Jackson?" And Meredith goes, "I don't know." Why? He says, "Because she's feeling bitchy." and this goes over. This is when you were allowed to have a plane fly over a stadium.
Yeah. Pre-terrorist days.
Right. So the next day I get a call from the record company that she Specialty Records, and they said, "My God, who rented the plane?" I says, I did. It cost me $187. He said, "Man, the album is taking off like crazy. All these radio stations that never played Millie Jackson, like top 40 stations, now are calling to send me your next single."
Wow.
So she did a song called "If You're Not in Love" by Monday that Merle Haggard wrote, and that was the first time that she ever got played on top 40 radio. And so when Millie came into town, she was playing a place called the Circle Star Theatre, and now she's headlining. The album went from 500,000 units to 3.5 million in a matter of a month.
Wow.
So now she's headlining, and I had Ray Goodman and Brown, and I had Roy Ayers. She's a headliner, and I'm there, and I'm backstage, and I'm walking around, and she goes, "You must be Jeff Trager." And I says, "Yeah," because I was the only white guy in the place. And she goes, "Get into my dressing room." So I go in her dressing room, and she says, she grabbed me, and she gave me this big kiss, man. She had these big lips, and she says, that was great what you did.
Wow.
I says, wow. So, you know, for $187,
yeah.
The kicker was the record company came out about a month later, and the guy hands me a check for $50. He says, "Thanks for what you did." And I opened it up, and I looked in it. I says, "Here, you need it more than I do."
Yeah, $50. Wow.
And then I could have got in big trouble.
Yeah.
But I says, "Come on."
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
I says, you got to be kidding me.
Wow.
You know? I says, "You guys are sitting at 3.5+ million
wow.
albums."
Wow, wow, wow.
And now she's got a new audience.
Yeah.
Because all these people that listen to Top 40 radio now are going, "Oh, geez, Millie Jackson, holy shit!"
Yeah.
And she did great albums. It's
Yeah,
just
she
that
did.
nobody would play her before because she was known as a black artist. You know. And,
yeah. And she was able to maintain. You know, she kept putting out good albums.
Yeah, but you need to break down the door.
Yeah.
You know, so if that's what you want to call it, that's what I did. You know.
Yeah, and her albums were always a little
raunchy.
yeah. They were a little, just about there. You know, she had that one sitting on a toilet. And,
put another log on the fire.
Yeah, and the ESP, extra sexual persuasion.
Yeah, but I'm the one who got the kiss.
Wow. Yeah, and they're great albums. They're like really, really.
Yeah, but that's the problem with radio. It's like they had this it was sort of they just wouldn't play certain records. It was they didn't want to play too many R&B records.
Yeah.
You know, it was like a quota system, I call it.
Uh-huh.
You know, but
yeah, well,
that's all right.
It was different times. You know, it was.
Well, yeah, it's to me, it was just, you know, I had somebody ask me on a podcast. He says, "Well, what was it like being a white guy walking in and promoting black records?" And I says, "I didn't think about it. I didn't care who was singing the record.
Right.
You know, didn't make any difference to me.
Right.
You know, it's just music."
Yeah. No. Yeah, I know. It's just, you know, back in those days, there really was. You know, AM radio was pretty much a Caucasian family thing. You know.
Well, yeah, but like I said, there's certain artists that like Sam Cooke, James Brown would get played, Al Green,
Sly,
you know. Well, Sly came.
Yeah, I mean,
Sly came later.
Santana was the first, you know, pretty much Latin act that crossed, right?
Santana was not just a Latin act. They were something. They had a multi-sound.
Yeah, but like Oye Como Va was, you know, that was a Latin.
Yeah,
too.
well, they were smart enough to go and find songs that
right.
You know, because Chipito had a lot to do with that, I think.
Oh, did he?
You know? Yeah, Chipito is pretty good about finding songs. So is Carlos.
Yeah.
You know, and if you listen to the Greg Raleigh songs, they're, you know, you can tell the difference. You know.
I know Michael brought them Black Magic Woman. And,
yes.
Bill Graham brought them Oye Como Va.
Yes, yeah, because Graham was a big salsa fan.
Yeah.
He loved to dance. That was his whole thing. I think he worked in the clubs in New York.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that Michael told me. He's the one who brought Black Magic Woman, because Peter Green was living with him.
Yes. Yeah, he was.
So,
yeah, he was living
yeah,
in
I always thought it was great. Well, it doesn't make any difference.
No, not at all. I actually spoke to. I spoke to. What's his name? Is Bob Sarlis.
Oh yeah.
You know Bob? He does the documentaries.
Yeah. He did the one on was it Stax Volt?
Yeah, he did a Bloomfield thing. He's doing a Chicago Blues one now, but he's doing a Latin music one. And somebody gave him a stack of dances in New York, in the old clubs in New York, the Latin clubs. And he said, lo and behold, there was Bill Graham in like half the photos dancing.
Oh yeah,
dancing away.
No, that was his thing. Sarlis was he filmed our first Voices of Latin Rock.
Right.
For us.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's really good, and he did a bunch of documentaries.
Yeah, he's doing one now on what's his name? Valenti from Quicksilver.
Oh, Dino Valenti.
Yeah, he's doing one on Dino now. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, Dino's son is putting it together with him.
Yeah.
And
he was a great singer. He was a great rock singer.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Quicksilver was a great band.
Yeah. So they were to a lot of great bands back there. Electric Flag. The Moby Grape.
Moby Grape could have been the biggest of them all if they didn't have management problems.
Yeah, well, they had problems. They had legal problems.
I mean, they had three great guitarists in that band. They were a great band.
Yeah, Cipollino.
Yeah, Cipollino, and they were great. And that's another band that kind of you never knew which band you were getting. Then they got into that What About Me phase, which was great too, but it wasn't really Quicksilver. It was a different Quicksilver.
Yeah, I think they were known out here. They weren't known back east.
Not until What About Me and Fresh Air.
Yeah.
That's back east. Those are the two that put them on the map back east. And they were a great band. Let's see. What else are we going to? Okay, Pavarotti. Where does he fit into all this?
Yeah, I worked on a movie called Yes, Giorgio. I helped put together the album. It was filmed in Napa, and Pavarotti. We did a bunch of promotions at Tower Records, and Pavarotti. There was another one where I had my friends come up and meet Pavarotti because most of the radio station guys were busy that day, so I needed to fill 10. I needed 10 people to show up, so I invited my friends. This guy Pavarotti was the nicest guy, but you treated him like the Pope.
Yeah.
One by one, you walked up to him, and he signed everything.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
He had a great voice too. Whatever he sang was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, that was filmed. I don't know, 20 minutes from where I live.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In fact, I met one of my a guy who became one of my good friends. His name is Joseph Mascola.
Uh-huh.
Joe Mascola was an actor, bit actor. He was in Fort Apache, the Bronx.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great movie.
But he became the villain of villains on daytime soaps.
Oh, really?
His name was Stefano D'Amera. I don't know if you ever watched that.
No.
But Stefano D'Amera was legendary.
Sounds evil.
Yeah, no.
Sounds evil.
He was great, but he was a music fan. He was when I met him on the set. We talked about, because I worked for London Records, and we talked about, I used to send him all kinds of albums and music and stuff like that, and we became very good friends. It's interesting guy, and I got hooked on that damn soap because of him. Until he died, because I'd wait to see him.
What happened with Keith Jarrett? Did you work on that album?
Well, it's funny. A friend of mine who was a roadie for Santana called me up and says, you have this label, ECM. There's a Keith Jarrett record on there called The Colon Concert.
Right.
And it's only 3.5 minutes long, because everything else is like 8, 10 minutes, 14 minutes long. And nobody would ever play it on radio.
Right.
So I took the album over to a station called KRE, KBLX KRE, and I bought a box of albums. I gave it to everybody in the station, and I said, "There's 3.5 minutes you can play," and they did. And at the time, they put out probably 5,000 albums. They shipped 5,000.
Right.
That doesn't mean they sold it. They just shipped out to the country. So the record got on KRE, and they started playing it, and they started playing it and playing it. And next thing I know it, they said, other people are asking for the single. I said, well, there isn't any single. See, what happened is ECM had never, ever put out a single.
Yeah, they were like a custom label. Yeah, very, very.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I said, well, I got to get a single so I can get it on other stations. So, because they're not going to play the album.
Right.
So I called the president of Mercury, Erwin Steinberg. Wouldn't take my call. He didn't know who I was. I was his local promotion guy. So this is the same guy that told Mickey Newberry that his album was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was a lawyer.
Yeah.
That's what he was. And he became the president of Mercury Records. So I finally called the secretary and I says, tell him it's Jeff Trager concerning his future. All of a sudden he gets on the line. I says, Erwin, you're going to lose ECM Records. I says, who are you? I says, I'm your promotion guy in San Francisco. I says, I'm the one who got this track on the radio.
Right.
And that's why you're selling albums. It's a 2-record set.
Yeah.
Now they're approaching 50,000 albums.
Wow.
Okay, they've never had a record.
No, that's the biggest selling ECM album.
Yeah, until Matheny came around.
Yeah.
But so I said, you're going to lose the label because Bob Krasnow, who's at Warner Brothers, wants that label really bad, and he says, well, they're never going to leave. I says, let me tell you something. You don't know Bob Krasnow, okay? If he wants something, he's going to get it. I says, I don't want to get in your business, but have you guys ever been over to Manfred Eicher's studio? Have you ever? And he said, no, what's that have to do with it? I says, well, Bob Krasnow was there last week.
Wow.
So Krasnow winds up taking the label away from us, from it was Polydor Record that was distributing ECM. And but the album wound up selling, I think it was the biggest selling solo piano record of all time. I think it was like 600,000 albums, 2 record sets.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And
along with it was another recording from Breslusan around the same time, and that was a 3-record set. That wound up selling 75,000. I mean, it was a 3-record set.
Yeah.
So the fact that I went and broke that record by going over to KRE, they wound up selling a ton of records. And when I met Jarrett, he's such an introverted guy. He looked at me like didn't even thank me. He just went, "Oh, that's nice." So,
yeah.
It's a crazy business.
Yeah. I remember people thought he was African American.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Because somebody, I forgot what big jazz guy said to him. man, you're not African American. I thought, and he said, the guy said to him, you're not black. I thought you were black. And Jared said to him, I'm trying.
No, that took him from here to there.
Yes.
So
that put him on the map.
Yeah.
He and ECM was just a small little, it was a label for jazz aficionados, pretty much.
We had Gary Burton, and then we signed Pat Metheny, and I'm telling you, they were so dumb they didn't even know who Pat Metheny was.
Yeah.
I mean, they just didn't. They lost him in a matter of 12, 14 months.
Yeah. Yep. And Metheny was. It's really a shame because he's really a master. Gap Band.
Gap Band was one of those records, one of those groups that I broke in Sacramento. It wasn't a priority for the label. The label priority in those days, the pop division. You had three divisions. You had a rock division, you had a pop division, and you had a black division.
Yeah.
And the black division would work their records. And when they had a hit, then they'd tell the pop division to go ahead and start working it. Well, I had a station up in Sacramento called FM 102.
Uh-huh.
And they owned the market. And one of the reasons of their success is they knew that Tower Records had a store in Sacramento that really targeted the black community. So they would sell thousands and thousands of singles almost every month.
Yeah.
So they would, when I'd go up there with records, they say to me, I don't want to hear about your Bon Jovi. We're not going to play it right now. I want to know what you have at the bottom of your stack.
Yeah.
And so I brought them, Drop the Bomb on You.
Wow.
And they went, they go like this. This is going on the radio today.
Wow,
and
yeah.
It started off, it gave them one of their first big hits, and then there was another single called Yearnin'. But all of a sudden, the black division is going crazy because they don't want you working their priorities. But I didn't I didn't care.
Yeah.
It's a good record is a good record.
The Gap Band, Drop the Bomb is still on every DJ's wedding playlist. Every mobile DJ plays that at every wedding.
Well, that broke out of Sacramento.
Yeah.
And I also would go down to Salinas, and they had a station down there that got into Fort Ord because they had a lot of black servicemen.
Uh-huh.
They were out of Fort Ord when it was in existence.
Right.
And I sold tons of singles. So if you know the marketplace, you could break records in Sacramento. You could break records in the Monterey, Salinas area.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of, I thought it was stupid that I couldn't work an R&B record until they told me to go ahead and do it. But I just thought that was, to me, it was a great record.
Yeah, I miss Tower Records. I really miss that store.
Yeah, they changed things.
Yeah.
The whole retail, scene.
Yeah, I mean, you used to be able to go to Tower Records, 11, 12 o'clock at night, on your way home and just run in and browse for an hour or two and pick up a couple of great, whatever you're looking for and go home. There's nothing like that anymore.
No, and they had 10 copies of Kind of Blue, and they had 10 copies of every Miles Davis.
Yeah.
So they cared, and they let me do a section called Rockin' Espanol.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that must have been big on, yeah.
Well, yeah, they had Russ Solomon was one of these guys that would say, we'd have lunch occasionally, and he'd say, you get the Mexican buyer into the Tower stores, they're not going to buy just Mexican records. They're going to buy anything. They'll buy everything.
Yeah.
And it was true. Russ was such a visionary. And he had a guy working for him named Stan Goman, who went talked to Russ and said, let's do this section called Rock en Español, because Maná was hot in those days and they were selling albums.
Yeah.
So I also suggested to him that he gets a bilingual buyer, because a lot of the Hispanics would come into stores and they were intimidated. So in L.A., they put one in each store.
Really?
Or in most of their stores. So when that buyer came in, you'd get hola, you get, in other words, you got somebody who's speaking their language.
Right.
So then all of a sudden, they're buying all kinds of stuff. They love to buy oldies. Okay?
Wow. And there was such a great, there was a lot of, people, well, I'm sure back on the West Coast, but guys like Sam the Sham and stuff, they had a pretty big garage band, a rock Spanish, community. They were big. There's so many great Latino bands that came out back then.
Well, you'd be surprised who buys records. Like Tower Records in San Francisco, I went in there and I was talking to the clerk, and he says to me, "You know who buys more Spinners records than anybody? The Orientals."
Wow.
Orientals. I went, what? He goes, more than the blacks.
Wow.
They love it. That's their. I'm going.
Well, I'm in New Mexico now, and the Native American population loves heavy metal. I was running a amphitheater out here, and whenever a heavy metal band came in, Native American Native Americans would buy out all the tickets really quick. It was their, and I was shocked by that it wasn't more like country western or something like that, but heavy metal went big with the Native American crowd here. And
you just never know. Huh?
No. You know what? Let's play a Malo tune, since we're talking about San Francisco and all that fun stuff. I'm going to play Nina. This is the 45.
Great. Good track.
Yeah, this is the 45 version of it. Okay, and that was the great Marlo, and that was Nina, and that's the single. The album had a much longer version of it, but this was the 45 that went out, and it was great. And we're getting ready to shut the show down, and we're going to have time for one more. And we decided on playing You Dropped a Bomb on Me by the Gap Band. Right, Jeff?
Yeah, that's great. That's fine.
Okay, and we're going to say goodnight now. And I'll be back in 5 minutes, but Jeff, you're going to be leaving us, so if you want to say goodbye to everybody. And Jeff, you're going to come back on to do part 3 in a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we looked at a lot. We didn't get to everything tonight.
I got some great James Brown stories.
Yeah, yeah, we all do. James was a great guy, but he definitely was unique. Okay, this one's You Dropped a Bomb on Me, and I'll see you guys in about 5 minutes, so don't go anywhere. And I'm going to say goodnight
to you.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you.
All right. You take care.
Yeah, don't go away. I'm going to be with you in 1 second, okay? Here we go.
You dropped a bomb on me. bomb on me. You turn me up, then you turn me on. You drop the bomb on me. You turn me up, then you turn me on. You drop the bomb on me. You turn me up, then you turn me on. You drop the bomb on me. You drop the bomb on me, baby. You drop the bomb on me. Then you turn me on, then you turn me on. You drop the bomb on me. Turn me on, then you turn me on. You drop the bomb on me. Then you turn me on, then you turn me, baby. You drop the bomb on me.
Not Your Mother's Radio is listener funded. If you wish to assist and help keep the station active, funds can be sent via PayPal to Elliot. Is not your mother at gmail.com. Remember, there is only one L and one T in Elliot. Thank you for your assistance. It is appreciated.